Writers Workshop, handing out flyers on the corner of 53rd and Broadway. Made redundant by those yellow boxes, he left to seek his fortune in Asia. The experience chronicled in his magnum opus, The Saget Pageant, 150 tedious pages of self-absorbed narration and obtuse observations about the ancient and beautiful culture he did not understand in the slightest. Returning to New York to pitch his memoirs, he currently seeks representation as his will write for Brews proposal has yet to contract interest beyond that of the NYPD for an open container. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Eugene Rosenberg to the stage.
Come on, I can't be the only one with will write for booze up here, right?
Take it here.
Isn't that like half the whole thing? Come on, Gotham Writers Workshop. You know, I got a post. Handing out flyers. All right, so usually I throw up. I have two stories that I work on, and I'm throw it out to the audience, decide like which one I should do. I had a rough week, so I really wasn't into Lost in the Snow. It was a little too depressing. I decided to go with a story from that magnum opus about my 10 years in Asia. So if I start talking about like weird Japanese neighborhoods or odd like Taiwanese subway stations, just bear with me. I'll try to make it make sense to you. So it was interesting how I ended up in Taiwan first. Basically, I woke up one morning and I said, you know what? I hate my job, I hate my apartment, I hate my girlfriend. I have to change everything. I have to change everything about my life. And in an opiated haze, I somehow procured a plane ticket one way to Taipei International Airport and arrived in the beautiful island of Formosa. Now, it was great because I was teaching English. And it was great because, the head gave me 6 5-year-olds, and they were like, okay, they don't know any English, and they've never been to school before. And you don't know any Chinese, and you never taught before. Have at it. You order. Now, 6 months later, I'd be given the sack. Didn't matter that I taught these kids how to read in 6 months, because they were all kind of acting like little New Yorkers. They were like getting up, and they weren't sitting in their chairs, and they were gesticulating. Apparently I was supposed to teach them Chinese manners on top of, short and long vowels and, identifying vocabulary of like, this is a car, and this is a airplane, and so on and so forth. So, 6 months in, they gave me the sack. They canceled my visa. I had to get out. I didn't know what to do. Basically, I was pining for Sarah. Oh, by the way, I come off like a real jerk at the end of the story, but I get my comeuppance, so. So, at the end of my 6 months in Taiwan, I wanted to go back to New York. Liz wouldn't take me back. So, okay, that's not gonna work. I wanted to stay in Taiwan then with Sarah, but she was getting back with her husband. That's not gonna work. And then I had clingy Natasha, who's floor I was sleeping on when I could stand to, look at her. That wasn't going to work out either. I remember my last week in Taiwan, I was kind of homeless, living in this like shack down at the end of the subway tunnels that my friend from like the FBI of Taiwan was like, yeah, we usually keep the witness protection in here, but we're going to let you crash for a week, Eugene, until your visa runs out. Anyway. Lo and behold, I got a job offer in Japan, a job offer in Tokyo, like fulfillment of a lifelong dream. I'd always studied Japanese literature and I'd always been excited by the urbanity. I have this simple rule. If I'm not living in New York, I need to live in a city that's bigger than New York. That's the only way I can deal with it, because I can't leave New York for something smaller. Tokyo, it's a pretty big town, 33 million. But interesting thing about Tokyo, imagine if New York's International Airport was in Poughkeepsie. Would that be convenient? Particularly if New York was 3 times the size that it is? Anyway, so basically we landed in Narita. If you've ever been there, it's way the hell at the other end of town. And I get off the plane and I'm very confused, and after living in Taiwan, I get to Japan, which is far more economically wealthy and far more sophisticated technologically, and all these things are going on around me that I haven't been familiar with before. All of a sudden the language is changing. People are wearing suits instead of, silk robes, and I'm just totally baffled. Plus, you can drink walking down the street there, so that just further clouded my brain. We used to call that public refreshment. But apparently, like I said, the NYPD will, represent you if you do that in this town. But anyway, I landed in Bueno Park, which is the northeast side of the town. I checked in my hostel. I can deal with a hostel. I can share a bathroom, but I can't share a bedroom. Like, I just can't deal with like snoring German guys and weird lesbians from Turkey, and I don't know if you guys have ever done the backpacking thing, but you meet some interesting folks. Anyway, so I was really kind of amped up. I don't know if you ever landed in a place that you've always dreamed about, you've always read about, you always thought about, and you're like, hey, I gotta check out this town. So I wasn't ready to go to bed, even though it was like 10 o'clock at night, and I've been traveling all day. And I walked into the common area after taking a shower, and I was like, dude, what should I do? He's like, what are you? And this guy was this, he was an Aussie, and he'd been kicked out of Korea for stealing an army jeep. And so I figured this is a guy who knows where a good time is, probably. You steal a jeep for the U.S. Army, and you're not even from this country. You know how to get around and make friends. Anyway, he's like, what do you want? I'm like, I just got out of, Taiwan, and I'd been to Hong Kong, and I was thinking about New York. And I was like, well, what has the most lights? What has the most neon? He's like, why don't you go out to Shinjuku? Now, hopefully you've heard of that. I mean, I'm not gonna bore you with too much Japanese nomenclature, but it's like basically the Times Square of Tokyo. The Times Square of Tokyo. So I head out there, and sure enough, there was a lot of neon. It was 11 o'clock at night, and people are buying televisions. The department stores are open, girls are buying shirts and skirts and jeans, and they always wear the skirts over the jeans because that's Japanese fashion, and if one does it, they all do it, and it's just, it's great. Anyway, I sat down at this bar, and it was funny, I ended up sitting next to a skinhead of all people. And I was like, I was chatting up, first I was chatting up with this girl, of course, and then the skinhead dude sits down, and he's like, what are you doing, man? I'm like, I don't know, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here. He's like, you should probably head over to O'Reilly's. It's like a fake Irish pub for fake expats like you. He was like, how long you been in Japan? I was like, 12 hours, 6 hours. He's like, yeah, you go have a good time over there. Anyway, I'm getting to the conflict, don't worry. Anyway, so that night, I ended up walking into this fake Irish pub, and I ordered a Guinness, because I guess that's the thing to do. And I sat next to this guy. And I was like, hey man, what's up? I've just arrived in town, what's going on around here? And he was like, you have a central New York accent. It's the only time in my life people have correctly identified my origins. I was like, how did you know that? He was like, well, I think it's like the way you pronounce dollars or something like that. I was like, yeah, I'm from Syracuse. He was like, oh yeah, I'm from Binghamton. I'm like, all right, we're gonna be buddies now. And I was like, as much as I admire your friendship, and I know we're going to be fast friends forever, let's make some other friends, preferably female, and see what happens. So anyway, long story short, we met Yuri and Misa. And then my new friend Don was like, hey, I got a bottle at my club on the other end of town, why don't we head out there? Now, one interesting thing in Japan is that if you're going to party, you can quit at midnight, or you can quit at 6 a.m. There is no middle ground. You either take the last train or the first train, because the taxi's going to put you back like $300. So forget it. You're either like, are you down for all night? Cool. Anyway, so I was down for all night. We were kicking back, and I was learning a little bit about Japan. It was really exciting, and I was, meeting all these new people, and it was really cool. And I met Yuri and Misa, and I think Don took Misa, and I took Yuri. Anyway, but I wasn't really into having designs. I was still, my mind was all foggy, and I didn't know what was going on. So, come 6 o'clock in the morning, I get on the train, go back, I got their phone numbers, and then I went back to my hostel and went to sleep. Now, the next day I get up in the morning, I'm like, you know what? I've always dreamed of going to Ginza, which is, let's call it the Upper East Side, basically, the Upper East Side of Japan. So I go up to Ginza, and I'm like, I don't have any money. So there's a Citibank, awesome, just like on 111th Street in Broadway. I'm gonna walk into Citibank, get some money. So I stick my credit card in and my ATM card in, and I'm like, huh. In this language, you don't have any money. Well, maybe I'll try the other language. My balance is 0 in Arabic also. This is an interesting development. Now, so after going through about 16 different languages, it occurred to me that nothing was happening. Now, I knew I had some money in the bank. I wasn't totally flat, but my job didn't start for a week. The hostel only takes cash. So there I am in the most expensive city in the world, with no access to money. I'm going to get kicked out of my hostel in about 12 hours, and don't really have a plan. Not really sure what's going to happen. Now, thankfully, customer service in Japan is everything it's cracked up to be. They put me on the phone with some Puerto Rican guy in New York City, and he's like, "Yeah, you got some money in the bank, man. I think your card's just messed up." Great. Okay. So, out of desperation, I ran across the street and I tried to buy something as a credit card. I couldn't get cash, but as a credit card, it worked. So then I thought, you know what? I'm gonna have to go in my Rolodex with all the people I know in Tokyo and see if I can work something out. Anyway, so I called up Yuri and I was like, "Hey baby, I got an idea. It's a real clever idea. Why don't I take you out to dinner and you give me the cash and then I can, pay for my hotel and it'll all work out for the best. Maybe if there's something you're looking to buy, I can use my credit card, give you the cash, whatever." Anything. Anyway, one thing led to another, and I ended up playing house with Yuri for about a week, and it was until my job started. No, it was fun. I would go out every day and come back with all kinds of questions. What is this about? I went to this neighborhood. What's going on there? Anyway. After about a week, my job opened up, and I went to my job where I lived for a little while, and I kept in touch with her, and came back a couple weeks later, and I'm like, "Hey, yeah, baby, now that I got a job and a paycheck and a place to live, now we can maybe see each other regular, and I'm not like some desperate guy off the street. We can actually hook it up." She's like, "No, Eugene. I was doing you a favor. It was a good time, but." This is Japan, and you've got a lot to learn about what's going on here. And I was like, "No, but now I have a job. Now I'm not coming to you hat in hand. I want to take you out, take you to my place." And she was like, "No, it's just not how it works. You got a lot to learn, Eugene." And I stayed one last night with her, and I got up the next morning. And we didn't kiss when we parted, and I walked down from her neighborhood down to the Meiji Shrine. In the Meiji Shrine, they have these wooden prayer blocks. People write their wishes. They write, "I hope I do well on my test. I hope I recover from cancer," or whatever it is. I bought one of those wooden blocks, and I wrote, "Death to my enemies." And I put it up on the wall, and then I howled like the stray dog that I was. And everyone was looking at me, and I said to myself, "This is the biggest, most crowded city in the world, and I'm totally alone."